Hello, welcome to Edge Energetics Part 2. Let me get my headset ready. How are you feeling today? How was your weekend? Did you celebrate Valentine's Day?
I did not. I never do. Because I feel like every day should be a day of love. That is my stance on that. So, welcome. As people are hopping in, we're going to play a little bit of a game, but first let's do a sound check, a comment check. So, as you're hopping on live, say hello in the comments and also let me know how the sound is. Hey, Kiara, thank you. Feeling it for today. You missed me on part 1, but I was wearing my robe. So we get into the moods on these. Hey, Alyssa. Oh, I'm glad that you are enjoying the sun. The sun has set here, so I'm getting into the evening mood. Great. So now that we know that the sound is working, welcome. We're going to play a little game while we wait for a few more people to hop on. Hey, Chelsea. So we're going to play a sexy version of Would You Rather to kick things off post Valentine's Day. So we're going to do a little bit of a speed round here. So imagine that you're going on a hot date. Would you rather be all dressed up, or cozy and comfy? What say you? Dressed up or cozy and comfy? So that's the first one. I'll review your answers as it comes through because I think there's a little bit of a delay. And if you had a sexy person feeding you, would you rather be fed grapes or messy mango, a nice juicy mango? It's like something that's a little bit more tidy like a grape, or something that's a little bit messy like a mango. So that's the second one. And number 3, if you were going to get kinky with some light or maybe not so light bondage, would you rather do the tying or be tied up? So those are the three questions that I've got for you. Let's hear what you have to say. Dressed up first date, cozy and comfy later on. Dressed up, yes. Mango, yes. Getting messy. All dressed up. Hey, Nicole, welcome. Cozy and comfy lately, but do desire to dress up more. Messy mango all the way. Mango, yes, I'm a mango too. I will happily I'll happily receive both, but definitely the mango. Tied up, be tied up, be tied up. Grapes all the way. When they're frozen, even better. You know what? I've been hearing from a lot of people lately, the frozen grape thing. I've never had a frozen grape before, so I think I need to get on that train. Be tied up, be tied up, be tied up. All right. Everything in me wants both, cozy and dressed up, but dressed up wins for first date. Yes. Yeah, this is why I love these games, because I'm pretty much always a both person. I want all of it. I want all of it. Which is great, because that is what we are playing with today. Having a little bit of everything, being able to receive and get everything that we desire. Okay. Frozen grapes are amazing. Yeah, okay, definitely going to be giving that a try. All right, so welcome to Edge Energetics, the Masterclass series. This is part 2 of 2. So if you missed part 1, but you're here live, great, stick around, stay live. But if you are watching the recording and you missed part 1, I would recommend going and watching that first and then coming back to this one. It's pretty hot. Yes. So in part 1, we covered what was really causing, superficially and even deeper, the energy leaks and overwhelm and anxiety, maybe for you and for your clients. We looked at misaligned dynamics of power, what those really look like and what to do about it. We looked at the key to minimizing resentment and disappointment in your business relationships. This across the board was one of the biggest ahas for people. Definitely go back and check that out afterwards. We also looked at the truth of what submissive and dominant roles really are, and clarifying what role you want to be playing in different relationships throughout your business. So again, make sure and go back and watch that if you missed it, but stay here live and be present if you can. So I am Allison Braun. If you missed part 1, I am a business coach and success mentor for wildly caring and gifted leading edge coaches and facilitators who want to create their life's greatest work, to share their life's greatest work with pleasure, with spaciousness, to actually go ahead and create it while working less, especially the busy work, and making more. And today we are diving into the heart of desire. And we're going to look at why you and your clients may not be experiencing your desires and what can actually change that. A little mini intro to BDSM, what it means, especially as it relates to your desire and your business. We're going to clarify your deepest desire and vision for your business a little bit more so that you're able to really name it and start claiming it. And we're going to have a deeper conversation on desire and how it's actually really vulnerable, especially for women, to live in their desire, and how to create more consistency in our sense of safety for that desire to live within us, and also for our community and for future generations. And we're going to also cover how to take these teachings and take them deeper into application and integration. And we're also going to go a little bit broader as well as deeper with them. So I'll be letting you know what options you have available to take it deeper, because I know that you may not just want the tip. And the fun thing is, you'll have an opportunity, if you desire, to call me Mistress Allison in the future. So a little something for you. So let's giddy up. We're going to get going. If you don't have your notebook ready, you can go ahead and make sure you've got that, because you might want to take notes, especially if you are someone who does like to take notes. And bring yourself into presence here. Presence here, turning off any distractions that might be up so that we can receive as much as possible as we dedicate this time to your revolutionary and safe business growth. Again, as always, honoring you for taking time today to really be working on your business and on yourself as it relates to you experiencing your business how you really want to be experiencing it, enjoying it so much more, falling back in love with it, hopefully, and just the care that you have for being an integral business owner. Really respect you for that and appreciate that about you. Yes, vulnerability around desire. I can't wait for this piece. Yeah, this is the good stuff here, I tell you. And I also want to, this is important. I want to name that desire and pleasure. Desire and pleasure, these are yummy topics. These are fun topics. And when I was sitting with what I wanted to be sharing with you today, so I was kind of channeling and letting it come through, my heart was pounding and I was sweating so much. And this is because I was hitting on desire and truth. desire and truth. And I know when I start sweating, I know it's good, and I know I care about it. I know it's something that really matters to me. And I also just want to name that because as much as I want this conversation to be, yummy and bring relief, which I'm committed to, sometimes we also have to get a little bit uncomfortable first. And it's not uncomfortable just for the sake of being uncomfortable, but it's getting uncomfortable with truth that needs to be named and addressed. So to be clear, I'm not saying that this conversation for sure will be uncomfortable for you, but I also want to prepare you that it might be. It could be a little bit triggering potentially, because when we look at things, even through a business lens, we're still talking about desire, power, consent, and all of that layered on top of BDSM principles, which, although the principles aren't sexual in nature, BDSM is. So we're kind of bringing in that little tinge of, sexual nuance, and this can bring stuff up. So first and foremost, we're going to practice consent here. Not me giving you consent, not you giving me consent, but you getting consent from your body. This is important because we want to build trust with ourselves first and foremost. So we're going to do a little check-in to honor yourself and what you need throughout this process. And I want to check in as well to see if already right off the top of the bat, do you trust yourself to honor yourself and to give yourself what you need throughout this process? And to keep checking in throughout and just see where you're at and what you need to honor your body and your well-being. So are you meant to listen to this? Let's close our eyes and just do a little check-in before we spend the next hour plus together. So you can close your eyes, take a nice big deep breath in, big breath out. You can do another 1 or 2 deep breaths at your own pace. And you're going to ask your highest self and your body, are you meant to receive this transmission, this message today? Are you meant to be here today? Just see what answer comes up. Knowing that you can trust yourself and that your no is honored here. Your no is honored here and your yes is honored here. If you're a yes, awesome. Let yourself be fully here, fully present. And thank you for checking in. And if you're a no, give yourself permission to turn this off, knowing that you have choice and that you can come back another day. Although I can't guarantee that technology will conspire for this to be a replay available, but that is the intention, that it is here for you for at least a short period of time, if not a slightly longer period of time. And there might be some things that you miss, but you know what? That's okay, because we're learning here to make decisions from a place of trust, a place of guidance, and a place of desire versus scarcity. Right? If you're taking in this information out of scarcity, out of the fear of missing something or not knowing something, it's not really going to be of highest service to you anyways. So I get to be in trust. I get to be in trust that the people that need to receive this message will be here for it in the perfect timing. And you get to trust that you will receive what you need to receive in the perfect timing. How does that sound? Does that feel good? Feel good? If you are a yes, welcome again. Welcome again. How did that feel? Even just to know that you have that choice to stay in or to leave based on your own body's internal consent or lack of consent. How does that feel? I would love to hear. Yes, because what's most important here is your well-being. You can't have safe and revolutionary business growth if your well-being is not honored. I feel my entire body relax for checking in before diving in. Yay, I'm so glad, Alyssa. That makes my heart happy. And this is all important because we're talking about desires, and your desires are worth protecting. You as a human being, you as a woman, always deserve to have your yes answered and your no honored, and to have the option to give consent or to not, and to have that heard and respected always. I know that might not always be the reality, which sucks, but you do deserve that. You do deserve that, including in business. And our business, just like the rest of the world, consent doesn't always happen, and it can cause a variety of different emotions and feelings. And I'll be the first to say here that both in business and in life, there has been times where my consent has not been honored, where my no has not been honored, and that sucked. And it had impact in my life for varying lengths of time. And there's also been times where I have screwed up and I haven't explicitly and fully asked for consent every step of the way. Like, for example, even asking a client for consent to share a screenshot of a message, but then not asking where it could be shared or for how long it could be shared. You know, there's different layers of this that get to come into place. So I want you to think about a time where, and if it helps, you can close your eyes or have them at a soft gaze to just kind of go into your visioning kind of movie playing scenario here in your mind's eye. I want you to think about a time where you were with someone that you fully trusted, someone that you felt totally safe with, and that you knew this person really cared about your well-being. Maybe you think of a memory of a moment in time where you just have a connection to that person and just that feeling of trust and safety. And I want you to notice what happened in your body. What happened in your body in that moment, and even now as you think about it, when you really knew that you were safe. I want you to share in the comments when you come back out of it, you know, what did you notice in the moment that was happening, and also as you reflected on it? How did your body respond to that experience? And then we're going to reflect on a time where you were with someone that you didn't really trust or feel safe with. And what happened in your physical response in that moment when you were with them and you didn't feel safe or you didn't feel trust? How did your body respond to that? Just reflecting there. Noticing potentially a difference in your body's response to those two different experiences. And again, I would love to hear in the comments what your experience was with both of them. When you felt safe, I know for me, like when I feel really safe and I'm with someone that I trust, my body starts to kind of soften. I feel like I can lean back a little bit. I feel like I can open up a little bit. Like my heart can start like taking up a little bit more space. I find that it's so hard to find someone that I'm fully safe with, because even people who love me and care about me can have places where they're unsafe. So my noticing just then was the challenge to even find that experience. Yeah, I can I can say that most of my life I really related to that, and only actually I started experiencing it before going into BDSM, but it's not until I started really working with my mentor, with her in a dom role and me in a submissive role, not even in a sexual context, but just in the energies of those roles, how for the almost the first time ever, my body, not my mind, my body felt safe to actually start letting go, because there had been clear communication, clear permission, clear guidelines, clear yeses and nos, clear safe words, clear red light, green light, yellow lights, which we'll talk about more. But there, that's when my body really started to feel safe to relax. So I just want to let you know you're not alone in that experience. A safe person, the feeling of like, oh, you've got me and I've got me, an openness, can feel I'm more inhabiting my body and connected to my legs and root. There's a deeper groundedness. Yeah. And I'm guessing, I know for myself, when I don't feel safe, it's like, even if there's not a lot of constriction, it's like you kind of have to like hold your body. It's like there's a little bit of protection happening. There's an effort in having to kind of keep it together. And that takes effort and it takes energy, and it creates protection, which of course we need because we don't feel safe. That's it's a good thing. However, when it comes to exploring our desires, our deepest, boldest, edgiest, most vulnerable desires, if we do not feel safe, there's going to be that little bit, or maybe a lot of bit of protection there. And so the desire, I keep seeing the desire like really living in our heart. And you may also feel it in your womb area, both tender spots that often require even extra protection. So it's like we can kind of protect and hold in those desires. And so with these desires being protected, we start to see a new increased importance of why I am bringing BDSM to the table, why I'm bringing BDSM principles to the table into this conversation about safe and revolutionary business growth. Because if you want revolutionary business growth, chances are you do have some pretty big vision, some pretty big desires. And the same thing goes for your clients. No matter what area you're helping your clients in, they have their own desires and visions that if they feel safe, they can actually start to expand into experiencing those. But if not, if there's any pieces that maybe haven't been put into place to allow you both to really trust each other, though, and even beyond the container, right? If there's just been a pattern of protecting, it can be hard for those desires to really come into reality. And BDSM is about the same thing. It's about desires. It's about creating a safe, consensual container for your boldest, deepest, scariest maybe desires to start opening up, to start taking up space, to be explored, to be curious about them, to be celebrated, and to actually be lived out. So let's take a little look at what BDSM stands for. Does anyone know already what BDSM stands for? If you know, you can share it in the comments. Let's hear it. And I will say that BDSM is something that just in general, it was something until more recently that I just wasn't interested in, because I had a very narrow and surface understanding of what it really meant. I was taking it really logically, right? So BDSM stands for bondage and discipline, bondage and discipline, dominance and submission, which we talked about on Friday in part 1. And it also stands for sadism and masochism. Okay? So I'm guessing most of you know what bondage and discipline mean. So bondage, like, using constriction, using ropes and things to keep our body literally bonded. Dominance and submission we talked about already on part 1. And sadism and masochism, these are the ones that people are kind of like, what does that mean? So sadism is when a person derives pleasure from inflicting pain. And masochism is when a person experiences pleasure from experiencing pain. And so from a surface level, some people may be really into it. Have various, points of connection to BDSM on the spectrum, from like, I don't know what it is, or I know what it is and I'm not into it at all, to I'm into it in various degrees. And again, for me, based on those descriptions at a surface level, even when I started off my work in the sexuality realm just over 10 years ago, it was actually probably 12 years ago that I started in this, and I even taught some workshops, and it just wasn't really something that I was into. The idea of pain, I'm someone that's the queen of ease. I'm talking about ease, I'm talking about pleasure. I'm like, there's no room for pain here. I don't want pain. I don't want discipline. I'm not into submission and dominance, again, because I had these misaligned ideas of what that meant, which I addressed in part 1. So I was just like, you know what, it's not for me. No judgment, anyone that's into it, it's just really not for me. And people, and maybe even you, may have perceived that to mean, especially around my commitment to ease and pleasure, you might perceive that to mean that I haven't experienced hard things, or that I just don't want to do hard things, and that I don't want my clients to have to experience hard things. And while that was definitely the case early on in my business, because I didn't have the capacity to really be with that, I didn't have my own internal and external container to really explore this, and now I do. The truth is, business can be painful, just like life. It can be the most triggering container of all, really. And growth can be painful. Relationships can be painful, especially if we have opened up our hearts to love and to connection. And ease doesn't come from taking the easy path. Ease doesn't necessarily come from taking the easy path. It often comes from taking the true path and being willing to do the uncomfortable thing, the painful things, like set boundaries with people that we care about and love, to release relationships that are no longer in alignment and in service of us or the other person, to show up and do the scary, visible thing, to release and to let go of things and identities that maybe we were attached to and that kept us comfortable. These are uncomfortable and potentially painful things. But it's when we know that it is true for us and we're willing to have the courage to go through and take those actions, that we actually start to really experience true ease. Really true ease. Sustainable ease. One of my biggest ahas from your work: ease does not always come from or mean easy. Quote image. Yeah, I'll have to make one on that. So, as coaches and as facilitators, it's important that we learn to transmute pain into pleasure. Or, as I typically say, to enjoy the journey as much as possible. When I say enjoy the journey as much as possible, that is what I mean. I mean to transmute uncomfortable or painful things into pleasure. How to find the joy, how to find the ease even in not so easy or challenging situations. And I don't believe that how we do one thing is how we do everything, but I do think that how we do one thing is often how we do most things. And we can take all of these contexts of BDSM and we can apply them to our businesses. The ability to face our fears, to be honest about our desires, no matter how edgy or big they are, to transmute pain into pleasure, and to breathe into constricting moments, and to learn how to breathe into them instead of fighting them, to make them tighter. Navigating the bondage of our own minds. This is big stuff. And the liberation, the sweet, sweet liberation that comes from knowing that you won't be judged for your desires in a safe container with a person or with people that you trust, or that you at least feel guided to be with, because you know that you're meant to trust them, because you know that it's a container where there's going to be clear communication, honest conversation about expectations and limitations and roles, and then knowing that you get to consent and listen and be listened to every step of the way, including check-ins and follow-up to assess what could be done better or differently next time. In this space, safety and trust for our desires, our sweet desires on our heart and in our body start to feel safe, to start coming out, to start taking up space, to start being lived and experienced. This is really why for you and maybe your clients might not be experiencing your desires. You might not be experiencing your desires. Your clients might not be experiencing their desires if they don't feel safe to come out, if it hasn't been explicitly named in all the different points that they are safe, not just said out loud, but actually modeled. It's like, okay, like I know that you might feel scared to express this. I know that maybe you might feel like you're going to be judged for wanting too much or too little. Maybe your desire has never been honored before. Maybe you've been really disappointed before. Maybe you grew up like I did with a religious background, and desires and sexuality were kind of connected, and sexuality and sex were just something that just were not to be talked about, and it was forbidden, so wrong, sinful. And so if desire is connected to sexuality and sexuality is sinful, well, not safe to have desires, gonna stuff those down. I mean, that's some subtle stuff that can play out from like a really young age in really sneaky ways. And also to be named is that for women, especially living in a patriarchal society, and I imagine, I have not lived this experience, but I can only imagine that for women of color or different religions as well, this can be, this work around exploring our desires can feel wildly vulnerable. And in general, our desires may not happen. There's no guarantee. Right? We could ask for something and it might not happen. Someone else may say no, or they could say yes, but it doesn't happen, or in the timeline that we want it to happen in, or in the way that we want it to happen in, so we feel disappointed. And it feels more painful to be disappointed than to potentially have a desire met. So again, just stuff it down. It's easier to lock up our desires inside and pretend that they don't exist. Pretend that we don't really want it so that we don't get hurt or disappointed. this is why your desires might not be happening, or your client's desires might not be happening. Of course, you know, in the business world, there's many, I'm not going to pretend that this is the only thing, right? There's many factors as to, you know, what brings and can bring our desires into reality. But this is a really important piece. You can take all of the right actions. You can take all of the right actions in your business. Set up the perfect launch plan, have all of the branding and the marketing, the languaging, hire a bunch of different people to do all these things for you, do the master classes, do all of these things, and your desire still might not come through if you don't really feel safe to have it, to live it, to be it. So I think this is an important topic to talk about. What do you guys think? How's this feeling? How's this landing so far? Let me hear where you're at. So that's what happens when we don't feel safe for our desires to come out. But let's look at what happens when we do feel safe. What happens when we do feel safe, when our desires do feel safe to come out to play, where there's a container and a structure in place for our submissive to like run free and to be liberated within. I often refer to, personally, my submissive is kind of like my wild woman. You know, I used to, if you remember from part one, like I used to really see the submissive role as someone who was kind of like weak and meek and didn't get their desires met. And now, like my submissive, the submissive part of me, because we have both parts, right, within ourselves, the submissive part of me is the wild woman. And when we ask hotter questions, we get hotter answers. And when we have hotter answers, we have a hotter life. So it's like, what structure, what container is going to turn my submissive on, is going to turn my wild woman on, versus like, what do I have to do? My wild woman, my submissive is like, I don't want to have to do anything. Don't tell me that I have to do something, because then I'm going to rebel, and I want none of that. But when our Dom can create a container based on our desires, based on the submissive's desires, then magic really starts to happen. Our desires have space to come out to play. So when we have this safe container to land in, to explore in, to transmute pain into pleasure in, then we can start to trust ourselves on a whole deeper level with our desires. Maybe again, or maybe for the first time ever, or maybe at a whole deeper level than ever before, depending on where you're at in your journey. And this feels like liberation. It feels like freedom. It's like all of the constriction, the bondage loosens, and we just get to like feel the flow of blood coursing through our veins and the air. It's like getting into a flow state almost, that kind of liberation, right? It feels like exhilaration and relief all in one. That's like, those are the two best words that I can think of for it. It's exhilaration simultaneously met with relief. And when I was really feeling into this and reflecting on this yesterday, I was like, yeah, it is like the slow motion. It's like your favorite song playing and the world around you just kind of moving in slow motion. And it feels like your heart is going to explode in the best way possible. This is what happens when we have a safe container. This is what can happen. And we don't get to experience that if we aren't willing to be vulnerable. But so this is something really important. You know, thank goodness for Brené Brown bringing, you know, vulnerability to the forefront over the last few years. So grateful for that. And so we don't get to experience that if we aren't willing to be vulnerable. But here's the thing. We deserve to allow ourselves to create and to have containers that feel safe to be vulnerable within, to push our edges, our growth edges within safely. So we can have both. We can have both and more and all, right? We can have safety to practice being vulnerable in, to explore our desires in a non-judgmental space before, going out to the rest of the world, to build whatever strength we need to build the inner knowing and trust to start taking out into the world. I always say vulnerability will save the world. Yeah, I do not disagree with that, Nicole. That's for sure. Alyssa, really just getting the gravity of the good girl conditioning in our culture around the ideal and the selfless woman not wanting or needing anything, and how liberation is to make space and welcome desire. Yeah, like, it's still, this is consistently, probably for the rest of my life, something that will keep growing and expanding for me, because like probably all of you, growth is a core value of mine. So I'm going to keep growing. And this is the type of thing that doesn't have a check mark, like, okay, done, done this, now moving on to something else. It's like, as we grow to a growth edge, expand into a new container, we start to acknowledge and see and receive new desires, new visions that require us to step into a bigger container. And then once we're there, then there's new visions and desires and edges to start moving through and pushing. And so, we keep growing, and that keeps showing us more and more and more. So it's not that like, oh, I did that one time, so now I should never have to do it again. I did this work before, I never want to have to do it again. This was in the personal growth realm, can bring up so much frustration, right? Because it's like, I thought I already addressed that. And it's like, you did address that. Now you're in a whole new container with whole new edges. So new things have been revealed in a slightly different way. Yeah, good girl conditioning. It's time for that to end. It's time for us to feel safe. Like, it legit wasn't safe for us to be anything other than the good girl, to play it super safe, to not have desires, and to, just stay within the confines of what society kind of saw as who a woman should be. When in reality, we know now that we're everything. We are everything. It's not this or that. It's the full spectrum, and a spectrum that's unique to us, right? We're not all the same. And this really this comes down to coming into ourselves and finding our own internal consent. Our own internal consent to start going into this vulnerable place, and creating an environment where consent is the standard that you hold. It's the standard that you hold. Because people are going to push our boundaries. People are not going to honor our yeses and nos, but especially, as we go out into like the broader span of social media and the world. But when it's the standard that we hold, there's just no tolerance for it anymore. And so when we have our own internal consent, we start to create this environment where it becomes a new standard. Consent becomes the new standard that we live. And when we're living it, when we're embodying it, every step of the way, it teaches other people, not because we're teaching it, but because we're living it. So it's about being in integrity with ourselves, right? And this can be really subtle, and it can also be not so subtle, but I'm going to share a little story around even just what showed up, I think it was maybe like 2 weeks ago or so. I was waking up in the middle of the night with like such clear messaging. It's like, oh, this needs to come out, to the point that it's like, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to start writing, which doesn't happen very much. I'm a self-projected projector, very open in human design, and I sleep a lot. Like, I do not like to get up in the middle of the night if I don't have to, but when things are really channeling through, it's like, oh, I just want to get up and like, I have to get it out. And I would sit down and start to write, but it was like, in my head, it was genius stuff. Like, maybe have any of you experienced this, where it's like in your head, it's like, this is the most brilliant thing ever. And then you go to start writing it or speaking it, sharing it in some way, and it's like, this isn't it. Like, it's not flowing. It feels like the energy is kind of like caught up in something. It can't really be translated. So I was having that experience. I was like, what is going on? I brought this to my mentor. I was like, is it me? Like, is there a piece of resistance that I need to move through? Do I just like need to push through to make sure that this content gets out? And I'm like, what is going on? What is going on here? Because it feels so good when it's coming through. She's like, well, share me a little piece of what you started to write. And I started to share, and there was one whole part of the story that I'll save for another day because it's still quite intimate and close to me. And it's really, truly the reason that brought me to this body of work. And hopefully I'll be ready to share that soon. But for now, the part of the story that I'll share is she's like, is there anyone that you need to ask for consent before you share this? Like, is there anyone that would be impacted by you sharing this story, either because they're in it or something else, that you need to ask for consent first? And all of a sudden it just came through. It's like, oh, she's like, maybe you need to ask Garrett. That's my husband. I was like, no, like Garrett and I have had a lot of conversations lately around like anything that he doesn't feel comfortable. Is there anything that he doesn't feel comfortable with me sharing publicly? Because I'm going to start sharing a lot more. And he's like, no, like go to town, share whatever you want to share. So it's like, no, it's not Garrett. And all of a sudden it just clicked and it's my parents. I have to share something that feels really scary and vulnerable with my parents that I never really wanted to tell them. But in order for me to share this story, I have to not ask for consent necessarily, but it's like my body needed consent from them to share it. Or rather, needed to know that they knew before. It was like, I'm trying to think of how to word this for it to really land. In order for me to have permission to share it internally, I needed to share it with them first. It was like the consent of it being expressed externally needed to be shared in an intimate setting with my parents first. And it's like, oh, okay, like I really don't want to have this conversation. But I went home and I wrote. It all came out. It came out so clearly, so much more came out. And again, like I don't have consent to share that information from myself until it feels a little bit more integrated. But once I had that conversation with my parents, it was like, okay, great. Like I am now liberated from anything holding me back from this coming out. Oh my gosh, yes. Like the hose gets kinked and my genius is not flowing. Yeah. So this is something that like I wouldn't have normally thought of until my mentor really brought it up. Is there anyone that I really actually need to ask permission or receive consent or have some communication, some clear and honest communication with before this can be shared? Especially now in the coaching industry, we see people sharing screenshots and testimonials and all of these things really regularly, especially screenshots and quotes and things like that. And that in itself can make people feel not safe because they're like, well, did someone ask to share that? My coach didn't ask to share that, and now I feel like a little funny. So it's about really going deeper into consent culture in the business world and going above and beyond here so that people in the community, people in your business can feel more safe to bring these things to the table, even to just have honest dialogue with you, because we're all going to screw up. But if there's an open container for that communication to be happening in, we can all keep growing together. All right. So let's look at desire and visioning, specifically your desires and your vision. I'm going to take you through a little visioning exercise. So hopefully you're in a space where you can close your eyes again. If you're not, you can come back to this time in the recording afterwards and go through it again. So you can lay down or sit. If you're sitting, try and have your spine nice and straight. And you can have your eyes at a soft gaze or fully closed. And you're going to tune into your heart. And I want you to pay attention to where your hands want to go. They might want to be on your heart or another point on your body. And allow yourself to breathe. Breathe in. Breathe into your body. Breathe into the possibility and the safety of your desire coming out to play. Your vision for your business and for your life coming out to play. Knowing that you don't have to share anything with anyone that comes up in this exercise. And you also have the possibility to share it with me. I love and promise to hold a non-judgmental space for whatever desires come through. But you have choice here. I'm just starting to feel into the exhilaration and relief that your desires can start taking up a little bit of space, a little bit more space than before. It doesn't have to be the whole shebang right now, but even just a little bit more space than before is great. And the whole vision might not become clear. All of the many desires may not become clear in this moment, but what we want to look at is, what is the one big vision, the one big desire that is on your heart right now? The one that feels most present, the one that wants to take up and be given the most space right now. Letting yourself breathe into it. If it's starting to come in, again, just keep seeing if you can inhale a little bit deeper, breathing it in. And if it doesn't feel quite clear yet, breathe into whatever experience you're having with that, knowing that that's okay too. And even just checking in with your body to see if you feel like your own internal consent to start giving this desire more space externally. So you're feeling it in your body, hopefully. Does it feel like you can start bringing it to life externally? Just being with whatever is, with this visioning, knowing that whatever it is, it's perfect. You're exactly where you need to be. And then you're going to just check in and see if when Allison asks me to share this desire, am I meant to name it? Am I meant to share it? Again, giving yourself permission to come into a deeper level of consent before just kind of going into it. And when you're ready, when you feel clear, you can start coming back into the room. Maybe massaging your body a little bit, slowly opening your eyes. Now I'm going to ask you, and if you felt called to share, you can go ahead and share it in the comments. What came through? You don't have to share all of it, maybe just a little piece. What came through in that little visioning? Was there a desire? Was there a little snippet of your vision that started to come into your mind's eye? And if you're sharing in the replay, you can always pop in #replay and tag me so that I can see it, because I would love to come back in and witness your desire, even if you are not here live with me. And if you are here live, I would also love to witness and celebrate your desire and vision. And here's the thing, we need to know what we desire. We need to know what we desire so that you know what is worth protecting and going for. Again, business is not necessarily easy. We're looking at implementing boundaries, edgy boundaries and new standards. We're looking at putting systems and strategies in place. And maybe you're someone that doesn't particularly love systems and strategies. It's putting in mindset and learning new things and trying new things and having uncomfortable conversations and getting comfortable with having honest conversations. These are not necessarily easy things. So what is worth transmuting pain into pleasure for? What are you willing to show up for in your business? What vision is going to call you to these things to keep showing up for with courage? My desire is a sexy website that is all set up to make me money while I'm holding my newborn baby and totally present in my nurturing bubble. Yes, love that. Beautiful. And congratulations on your future newborn baby whenever that happens. And Nicole, I will have to redo this part. Yeah, if you have distractions and kids, it's totally okay to keep coming back to this over and over and over again, right? I think it should be a priority for us. It gets to be a priority for us to take space to tune into our desires and our vision. Yes. So again, there's a lot that goes into growing a revolutionary business. There's a lot that goes into growing a revolutionary business. These standards, these boundaries, these systems and structures, our mindset. And it's not even just one that hits these external things like, making a certain amount of money so I can go and travel and buy this house or save for my future or the future of my family or have spaciousness or the schedule that gives me life. Not only any and all of that you desire, but also it's like the internal piece of what really moves you. We get to have both. The piece that moves us and fuels us and calls us and drives us and nourishes us, in addition to these beautiful external experiences. Clarity, vision, learning how to let in and receive the support that we really want. Just not necessarily even just more support, but better support. Better support. It was in my journey of learning to receive better support that all of this really started to come through, because I learned that it wasn't just about more, but it was about allowing myself to let in a better experience, because I knew how to ask for what I really wanted. I felt more comfortable asking and naming what I really wanted, even if I looked like a diva, even if I looked like I was expecting a lot. I gave myself permission to have those desires. I learned, and we get to learn how to delegate and give ownership to receive that support. Again, setting up the systems and structures that support not only you and your business, but also your clients. Setting healthy boundaries that support you and your clients. Next level boundaries. Creating win-win-win agreements. Agreements where not only do you win and not only do your clients win, but you both win. And the world wins when you have these clear agreements in place and this container put into place with that agreement. Having spaciousness to tap into your desires and your vision and to work on your business, to take care of yourself, to play and experience pleasure, to fill yourself up. All of these things are really important when it comes to revolutionary business growth, but when you have a container that feels safe to push your edges in, that celebrates your desires and holds them sacred with you, to be with you as you stumble around maybe a little bit with implementing these new boundaries and standards and having potentially tough conversations, putting in place these agreements and having these up levels and adjusting these things that maybe went off track or where there was miscommunications, or making those vulnerable asks, then we can enjoy the journey a lot more, so much more. There can be more pleasure than pain in this experience when we're in it together. And this is why I have two very exciting opportunities to share with you that are going to support you with all of that and a lot more. And if you feel some desire brewing as I share these with you, if you feel a calling to explore these more, here's what we are going to do, if you consent. If you don't consent, that's okay. You're welcome to leave if you feel complete. But I'm going to be a really good dom here. And a really good dom is going to provide a little bit of tension. It's going to put some stakes in, right? It's going to make the game a little bit more exciting to see if this is something that you really want. And a good submissive likes things to be, they like to work for it a little bit, right? So if you feel called to either of the options that I'm about to share with you, here's what you're going to do. You're going to message me either on Facebook. We're all on Facebook here, but if you're watching the replay and you're not on Facebook, you can hit reply to any of the emails that I've sent. Instagram, if you're on Instagram, you can also message me there. All three of those spaces I will be checking in. So you're going to send me a message and you're going to tell me why you want it. You're going to seduce me with your desire and share with me why you should be allowed in this container, whichever one you're interested in. And I want to be clear that this isn't about convincing me or even yourself. This is also not about competition. If you get in, it doesn't mean that someone else isn't going to not get in. And if you don't get in, it doesn't mean that someone else is going to get in. There's room for everyone that is meant to be here. So this is really about practicing being in these energies, because in this first option, which is called the Edge Energetix Intensive, I'm going to walk you from point A to point B, from step one, from open to close of a scene. So in BDSM, we call them scenes. I refer to them in business often as containers, from open to close of a container. And through this experience with both this option and the next option, you may call me Mistress Allison, because I will be in the dom role for these containers. And so in the Edge Energetix Intensive, I'm going to walk you through a full scene step by step, using not necessarily BDSM principles, although of course we will be using BDSM principles, but actually the BDSM steps of a healthy, safe, sane, consensual scene. So the first part is around conversation. So when you message me and seduce me with your needs, when you express your desire, you're allowing me to start looking at, like, okay, what is really required for this desire to come through? Is this container it? I'm also going to ask you some questions, often what I consider qualifying questions in business, but in this case, it would be questions to help us create a clear agreement and to make sure that this is going to be a win-win-win fit, right? Is this going to be a win-win fit? Is this the container that is going to best serve you? So I'll ask you some questions. And so that's the beginning before we even enter into agreement. And then I'll send you the actual invitation. And then once you're in, the container officially begins. And then we have one full day together, a group intensive. We're going to spend about 5 hours. It's pretty full on. And so in that 5 hours, I'm going to walk you through. So I'll be teaching you all the steps of facilitating a scene in your business with your clients or with your team members, with your support systems. But you're going to not only learn it logically, but you're going to actually experience it. So you have a deeper level of that integration of knowing. And we're going to go deeper. So in this masterclass, we've touched on some of the principles like safety and consent, desire, clear communication around expectation. But there's so much more that goes into making your experience with your business and your clients' experience with your business and your team members' experience with your business better. So in this intensive, we're going to cover creating life-giving systems and structures in your business that support you and your clients, which free up more space for you as well. We're going to look at up-leveling your standards and your boundaries so that you are honoring yourself and you're honoring your clients in the process, because you're modeling what it's like to have these new up-leveled boundaries. I think we all know what boundaries are like. We've all set boundaries, but again, when you're expanding, when you're pushing your edges and expanding into a new container, there's going to be new boundaries, often edgier boundaries, that get to be identified and put into place. We're going to look at anywhere that you might be over giving or over delivering at sacrifice of yourself, and cleaning that up. Because through the whole intensive, we're identifying where you're leaking your energy and your power, and we're just cleaning it up as we go throughout. We're going to have the experience of what it's like to co-create and be in this magical energy together, where it's synergistic and there's a potent energy and it's win-win-win. So you'll get to have a little taste of that experience. We'll cover a lot of saying yes to things that you really desire, but also stopping saying yes to the things that are no longer in alignment, with your desire and vision, and really holding the standard of being the CEO in your business. So this is for leading edge coaches and facilitators. And while this information would really apply for any business owner, really any human would benefit from this, because you can take these teachings and apply it to your relationship with your partner, your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your best friends. It translates really well. But a lot of the teachings that we'll have in the intensive are really going to relate to those who are in relationship with clients and team members. Even if you just have one VA, or you want to have other support systems in your business, a coach, a mentor, this is really going to serve you. Even if you're really established in business, you've been in business for a long time, like none of these things are new to you. This is going to really apply a whole new context that allow just new ahas and insights and integration and standards to really come through. Everyone that went through the last round is not new to any of this. A lot of them are in the leadership and integrity fields, and it still blew their minds and really changed their relationship to receiving support, receiving their desires, and providing epic next level integral support to their clients. So ultimately, this is really going to support you in having more energy, more freed up energy in your body, more relief, because you won't be carrying this responsibility for your clients and the people that you care about on your own shoulders or back. It's like this weight off that gets to happen. You're going to experience more spaciousness and joy by having some of these systems starting to be put into place. You'll likely make more money if that's something that you're desiring, because of the space, but also because of the experience that you're providing your clients. You're going to get more referrals, more renewals. Your work will start spreading more, even more than it already is, because there's just so much love and adoration that's coming through, so much gratitude that's coming through from your clients. You're going to fall back in love with your business, or fall more deeply in love with your business with this work, if this is something that you feel really called to. because this is all about enjoying the journey as much as possible and still continuing to grow in that process. So this container is really going to support you with that. So it's 1 day, 5 hours, deep dive, going through it all. And then we have 1 week of follow-up afterwards. And this is to show you the aftercare process. So we'll have a Facebook container for that where you can ask questions as we kind of integrate post-intensive, but then I'll also walk you through some of the aftercare process so that you can learn how to apply that in your own business as well. And my intensives are normally about 3 to 4 hours and are $5,000. And this intensive right now it will be on early bird pricing. And so right now it's $888 for this intensive experience. So that is option 1. That is option 1. Oh, I see way more comments are coming through. So I'm going to check in and see if you have any questions about that piece so far, and then I'm going to go into option number 2. For some reason I can't, oh there, I was going to say I can't expand the comments for you, Kira, but it looks like I notice in my head I try to steer towards a more acceptable desire for me, deepening in intimacy with my partner, or a safe, healthy birth. Interestingly, more feminine desires on the surface, even though the desire for the website is about being the best mama I can be. Yeah, so often our desires, again, there's something deeper there. There's kind of 2 layers. There's often an external piece and an internal piece, and we get to play with both. And I think it is an important thing to acknowledge that there's a reason why, based on what we covered today, there's a reason why we kind of stay a little bit at the surface. So again, just like seeing if you can just go a little bit deeper, expand that desire a little bit more, or go into the slightly, the truer desire, because we're so taught to stay superficial in the business world, right? It's like, oh, I want more clients. Is that really what you want? Or do you just want more money and you think you need more clients to make more money? And do you just want more money because what you really want is to be able to take 2 weeks off and just be able to write? So then is your desire more clients, or is it to actually have space to write? And then we can kind of skip 2 steps and just go right to the meat of the real desire. So sometimes we get to train our brains to kind of go a little bit deeper. Is there anything else? Is there anything else? Why do I want that? Why do I want that? And then we can get to the real heart of the desire. And then the work becomes, okay, do I feel safe? Can I let myself feel safe? Can I trust myself to follow this desire? And sometimes we need support to really help us move through that and stay committed to it. Create and lead a community of wayfinding women, neurodivergent wayfinders. Ah, yes, I love that, Rachel. Love that vision. More spaciousness in my day-to-day to make space for what is wanting to emerge. I don't even know what it is yet, but I feel it needs to have space to come through. Yeah, so that's the desire, right? Is space and clarity. Oh, 2 months to go. Congratulations, Kira. That's so exciting. Chelsea, 6-figure income year after year, being so desired and passionate about my business that clients are drawn to me with instead of hunting down work all the time. Create an environment to lead and empower other women to meet their goals, grow their business, and grow their businesses. Yeah, so even taking it a little bit deeper. Yes, you're so welcome. Totally understandable with where you're at in the creating new life stage. Setting boundaries is always edgy for me because I'm so conflict avoidant. Will you go into all of that? Yes, this is a really big part of it. I have lived most of my life, even probably to this day, being conflict avoidant. Don't love conflict, right? Like it's something that just like makes my heart want to pound out of my chest and kind of makes me want to take flight or to avoid. And I know that without the support systems in my business, because often the biggest edges that I've had to move through are things that I would perceive, not necessarily that would include conflict, but I would perceive potentially having conflict. So having support to move through those, not on my own, has made such a big difference. So we will definitely be talking a lot about that and how to move through it in a way that feels more safe, and also how to enter into and only enter into relationships where right off the very start you feel safer, knowing that you can have these conversations without it feeling like conflict. This is huge. So yes, I'm excited to go deeper into that. So that is the first option, but I also know that you may want to go deeper and not just have the tip, pun intended. And so this is where the Liberation Mastermind comes in, and I'm so excited about this. It's been a hot minute since I've done a mastermind. I almost always have had a mastermind happening for the last 10 years. They are one of my favorite types of containers to have. And they really allow me to be in my zone of genius, which is in facilitation and guidance. Because as a self-projected projector, I am the best at experiencing intimacy with my clients and within these containers, and being able to really get to know my clients so that I can support them in seeing their vision even more clearly and guiding them to the most efficient path, the most easeful, the most pleasurable path to stepping into that, making it a reality, living it. So in the Liberation Mastermind, you receive Edge Energetics, the intensive, for free right now. So that's a little bonus. And this is where we get to live these teachings together for 3 months. So the intensive is just that. It's an intensive. There's a lot of information jam-packed in there. There's a lot of experience jam-packed in there. But I also know that over time, I'm just going to grab my charger, over time, that there are going to be situations that come up as you're living them that you're going to want support with. You're going to want guidance with. You're going to want celebration with. You're going to want to know that you're not alone in living and embodying these new pieces into your business and into your life, into your body. And so in this container, you're going to have an element of sisterhood, of mentorship, my mentorship and guidance, witnessing and celebration as you go along. And also there'll be a deepening and an expansion on the teachings. So there'll be new pieces that come through as you ask questions. As situations come up, I'll naturally start teaching based on what's showing up in the container. So this is really going to be a whole new level of integration on things that can really be terrifying, like the potential hard conversations that you might need to have, the new boundaries that need to be set, the new processes that need to be put into your place to be at a new level of integrity from the moment of, clients coming into your, potential clients coming into your world, to wrapping up your containers with them. The application process, the filtering process, the agreements that are made. Are they just a template agreement, or are they agreements around what you actually expect from them and what they can expect from you? So win-win-win agreements, all of these pieces get to come into place in this container where you're actually, all the things that you want to be doing to support your desires actually get to be put into place so that you can ultimately experience the liberation and sense of ease and relief, the exhilaration and relief that comes from doing this work and being in alignment with it. So one of my greatest gifts, one of my best friends who was a client of mine for over 4 years in my masterminds, she's like, make sure that you tell everybody that one of your greatest gifts is taking hard things and making them easier, hard experiences and making them easier, breathing ease into them, making it more digestible and doable. Taking things that feel impossible and making them doable, and taking things that feel good and making them freaking amazing, phenomenal. So that'll be a little bit of what you get in this container as well, a little bit of that magic. So we'll be clarifying boundaries more, claiming them, integrating them so that it doesn't feel so scary and it feels a lot more doable. And it'll be good practice. So in liberation, you'll be supported with all of that. You'll be able to start stabilizing this and integrating this new vibration of standards. So you start naturally attracting higher quality clients. This is a really big thing. When you start living this, you start attracting people that are really a match for it. So then you just start having a lot less issues to begin with. There's a lot less conflict that needs to be navigated because you're just living at that new standard. So there's going to be lots of expansion here. So this includes the Edge Energetics Intensive, which is a bonus, a 3-month sacred container, which is typically a $10,000 value. Normally, my masterminds start at $20,000 to $25,000. You'll receive a private Facebook space, potentially a Voxer space as well for communication, kind of in the moment, feedback, witnessing, support, celebration, guidance in between our sessions. This is also where, so like infinite possibilities really get to happen because of the connections that are there and the new kind of spontaneous insights and the pieces that start coming through as we work as a collective together. So it's not just me and you, and I'm not the only person that you get support from. You get support from the collective. And then we'll have bi-weekly mastermind sessions that are kind of masterminding and kind of group coaching. It'll be a little mix of both depending on what I feel is needed in each scenario. And right now, you'll also receive 2 one-on-one sessions with me, 2 one-on-one 30-minute sessions, which is a pretty special little bonus in there. So the total value of this container is all the 8s, $18,888. And the investment for the Liberation Mastermind right now, with Edge Energetics included, is $4,444. And there is the option to do a payment plan for that as well. So that is the Liberation Mastermind. So those are the 2 options. You have the Edge Energetics Intensive, and you have the Liberation Mastermind, which includes Edge Energetics. So if you feel the pull, the calling, the genuine desire to be in either one of these containers, what you're going to do is then message me. Maybe you call me Mistress Allison, maybe you don't. You're going to seduce me with your desire. Tell me about your desire to be in that container, why you feel called to it, and why you would be a great addition to it. And then I will ask you a few questions and we will go from there. So that's what that process is going to start like. And then I'll walk you through the whole container should it be a good fit. So now I'm going to open the doors for questions. Any questions that you have about anything that we covered today, anything about the desire, the vulnerability, the safety, consent, anything around the 2 options, the intensive or the mastermind, you can bring it to the table here and I'll be happy to answer before we wrap things up. And as I give a little space for those questions to come in, if there are any, I just want to say thank you again. Thank you for being present here. Thank you for showing up for yourself. Thank you for tuning into your body and taking care of yourself through this process. Thank you for being a human of integrity and wanting to provide the highest, most integral, safe, revolutionary experience for your clients. Your clients are so lucky to get to work with someone who takes this level of care and is willing to keep growing and keep getting better, keep expanding, keep pushing their growth edges so that you can keep pushing their growth edges safely. So just really want to acknowledge you and honor you for that. All righty, let's see if there's any other questions coming through. I'm hoping that I caught all of the comments. I think I did. If I missed anything, you can also let me know. And of course, if you are watching the replay and you have any questions that you would need answered, that you want answered before feeling called to message me, what you're going to do is, again, pop in #replay in your comment, ask your question, and tag me at Allison Braun so that just to make sure that I see your question and can come in and answer it for you. Will you cover more about creating internal safety and consent within myself in the intensive? I think I might steamroll over this step sometimes because I can get so other-oriented and focused on the needs of everyone around me. This will be something that is really baked into the intensive experience, especially. I walk you through code words. I walk you through using the red light, green light, and yellow light system. And I invite you to use it throughout the container. So there's going to be several check-ins throughout the container and invitations for you to check in with yourself. It's like, oh yeah, come back to yourself. Oh yeah, come back to yourself. So this is going to be a really great practice, especially if you're someone who hasn't typically felt like it's a priority or a safe thing for you to kind of check in and see what you need. If you're constantly looking at what other people need and trying to make sure everyone else is okay, this is going to be a really beautiful practice for you to start really checking in with yourself first. So that's a great question. It won't be, a magic fix by any means. It's not something that needs to be fixed, but this will be a container where you get to really go deeper into that and start practicing it. Okay. I don't see any other questions coming in so far. So I think I will leave it at that. We will wrap up. I will say that for those of you who feel called to either of these containers, I cannot wait to connect with you. I can already, well, I have been for months already feeling the energy of them. And I feel just truly, truly like thrilled about the people who get to come into either of these containers that I get to share this precious time with and these teachings with. Like, this stuff has transformed my business. I've been teaching this stuff for a long time, containers, agreements, all of the systems and structures and everything that we need to experience more simplicity and spaciousness and ease and pleasure. This is not new stuff for me, and it's probably not new stuff for you either. And at this new level of expansion for myself, I needed a different context to help me to start thinking more creatively, to feel more excited, to push these uncomfortable edges. And so this context of BDSM principles is really what has provided that for me. And it's not going to be the case for everyone, but if you already feel a sense of like exhilaration or invigoration, more inspiration, more safety within your body, it's a good sign that one of these containers is just going to help you to keep opening up even more there. Thank you, Nicole. You're so welcome. Great. We're going to wrap things up. So I would love to hear, as always, what was your biggest takeaway today? What was your biggest takeaway, your biggest aha that you had? This is, as the Dom, this is my request. This is something that really fills me up. So I'm so happy to share all this with you. And it really feeds me. It really nourishes me to hear what's landing for you, what you're taking away from this experience, even if it's a feeling versus a teaching. So thank you in advance for sharing that. I'm so happy to be able to share this space with you. Yes, I love how alive your teaching feels. My pleasure. It's truly an honor to be able to share it with you. Thank you for being present with me here so that I have someone to share it with. All right, have a beautiful rest of your night or day, depending on when you're watching this, and I will see you very soon.